One of the ones, of course, that the one that everyone is talking about now is the national anthem, the old new national anthem. We're going to definitely talk about it later on this morning, but it's something that my colleague Chamberlain has spoken to. So what do we call it? Do we say the new national anthem, or the old new national anthem, or the old national anthem reborn? I don't know, but Chamberlain, what's your take? Okay. Well, we're going to get back to them in a bit, because that is something that everyone is certainly talking about now. What is also instructive is that, look, whether we like it or not, it is the law now. It is the official national anthem of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, and it is what we have to live with. We're going to get into our conversation in no time from now, but just to also let you know that one other thing that should be interesting all of us, as at this morning, as we speak right now, is the fact that it's 1 year already. Exactly what would you say your take is on Nigeria in this administration, 1 year into this administration and 25 years into the Fourth Republic? It's the first time in the history of Nigeria that our democracy has lasted this long. The first anniversary, well, First Republic lasted, I think, about 6 years. Second Republic lasted about 5 years. Third Republic hardly even took off. Because there was no Third Republic president. And this Fourth Republic is one we have had for 25 straight years. All of the turbulence and everything that has brought us here has brought us thus far, exactly where you are now. Let's take a quick peek at this particular report before we get into our conversation today.
Journey. For the first time in the history of the Fourth Republic, President Bola Tinubu is attending, not to present the budget. Minutes past noon, President Bola Tinubu, accompanied by the Vice President, is admitted into the Green Chamber, where a host of past lawmakers, as well as governors earlier admitted, are present. President Tinubu has just signed the National Anthem Bill 2024 into law, prompting the joint sitting to jettison the 46-year-old anthem, standing in respect as a different tune reverberates. In his welcome address, the president of the Senate, Senator Godswill Akpabio, explains that it is not a day for long speeches.
You just greet us. You may say what, you may wave, you may stand up and take a bow, because this is the chambers. However you do it, and thereafter, we will allow you to take your exit while we continue with our proceedings. You intend to celebrate Democracy Day, which is June 12th. But out of honor and respect for the National Assembly, you said you must pass through the National Assembly on your first anniversary in office.
See, this is our diversity. We have no other choice. It is our nation. No one, no age, no other institution or personality will help us. We are walking the talk. I will soon bring year 2024 appropriation bill. That is just for your information.
After the brief speech, another attempt is launched to familiarize with the reintroduced national anthem.
May we now rise for the national anthem.
President Bola Tinubu immediately proceeds to commission the new National Assembly Library Complex named after him. From the National Assembly, Gloria Umezuke, Channels Television News.
Well, we're going into our conversation now, and well, I guess the fact remains that we have to learn that particular national anthem. One thing is for sure, and that is the fact Nigerians all are proud to serve our sovereign motherland. Everywhere we go, we're proud of Nigeria. So, whether it's whichever part of Nigeria you come from, but I think there's some explanation that we need to get about where we are so far as a nation 1 year after. Chamberlain, Markwe.
All right, so let's get to it. We've got two gentlemen joining us here this morning. We've got Honorable Philip Agbese, who is the Deputy Chairman, House Committee on Information. We also do have Senator Shehu Sani here with us. He represented Kaduna Central Senatorial District in the 8th NASS. That was from 2015 to 2019. Gentlemen, good morning. Thank you for coming on today.
Thank you.
Honorable Agbese, let me start with you. The President of the Senate was talking about the President passing through, but we heard him speaking there. So was that an address of a joint National Assembly? What happened?
Well, thank you very much, Chamberlain. First and foremost, Deputy Chairman, House Committee on Media and Public Affairs. Yes, not information. Right. Yes, what we had yesterday was a ceremonial sitting, the joint sitting of both chambers. It is actually a very rare occurrence in the Parliament, to have the two chambers sit. And what we did yesterday was to commemorate the 25th anniversary of the return of our country to democratic rule. To equally add, since the return to democratic rule, it has been a great journey for our country, but particularly for the Parliament. You know that during the military era, of course, the military will constitute themselves into both the executive and sometimes into the judiciary. So what has always been lacking, has been the institution of the Parliament. And right now that we are celebrating 25 years of democratic rule, it is quite exciting for us in the Parliament and those who went to the Parliament, to have that special celebration. Then to add, when His Excellency, the Distinguished Senate President, mentioned that he was just walking through the National Assembly, that was because, we had this sort of confusion in the air some days back that the President was going to address the joint session of the National Assembly, and at some point it was reconfirmed again that the President would not be making an official address. Reason being that Mr. President, in line with the precedent set by his predecessor, former President Muhammadu Buhari, that June 12th will be our Democracy Day. And of course, Mr. President being someone who also was in the struggle, for the actualization of our democracy, and the fact that all Democrats in the country came together and said, we must recognize the struggles, of people who worked tirelessly hard for this democracy, to celebrate the actors, the soldiers who fought in that battle. And Mr. President said, I would prefer to give an address not only to a joint session of the National Assembly, but to the entire country when it is June 12th. And I think the President did mention that even yesterday before.
So when did the President say so? Was it here or in the communication between NASS and the Presidency?
Yeah, aside the official communication between the Parliament, of course, there's always this understanding, and not an official comment by the President, so to say, but that is...
Was there a proper communication? Because we also read in some quarters that the Speaker was saying something like, well, it was their error, they didn't communicate properly to the President, and so the address wouldn't happen?
Like I said earlier, we have apologized to Nigerians because the 10th National Assembly, of course, is different. We are trying to get things right and to do things differently. And it is in tandem with that, that it was our wish that Mr. President will address us May 29. But like the President communicated through unofficial communication to the leaders of the National Assembly that my address will be coming on June 12th, which we have all accepted as Democracy Day. But of course, the joint session yesterday had to go on because we have equally lined up activities between the Senate and the House of Representatives. And what I want Nigerians to see is the level of cooperation. You know, since we came on board, by June 13, this parliament will be 1 year in office. We'll maintain this cordial relationship.
Yeah, we'll come to that. But Senator, what do you think about the way the whole thing came through? Because there was a lot of confusion about this.
That is the visit of the President to the National
Assembly, yes.
Yeah. Well, traditionally, what we know is that when the President comes to the National Assembly, he is there to address the members of the Parliament. And what has always been known is that he is there to present budget and to make a speech as far as the budget is concerned. So this idea of passing by is not something I have been used to, and I don't know what passing by means. If the President, out of all his schedules, will leave his palace and to come to the National Assembly, there should be a takeaway from the visit. But I cannot specifically say this is what has been. It is a fact that yesterday was May 29th, a day in which Nigerians are marking the return of democracy, not the return of democracy of the Fourth Republic. It is worth celebrating, but if it's not a public holiday and the day has been shifted to June 12th, so I cannot say specifically this is what I understand with this visit. But if the visit is to symbolize the synergy, the working relationship between the President and the members of the National Assembly, well, it is symbolic, but virtually, I don't think even themselves, they can say this is what has been achieved out of that. But it is an image that is sent to a whole country that we have a President marking 1 year and the National Assembly also supposedly marking another 1 year, and they are working together. But I think in a nation like this, faced with series of problems and crises and conflicts, every opportunity of such kind should come with something productive that will give hope to Nigerians that this is what has been achieved. Yes.
Honorable, are you aware that there are lots of people who don't quite understand why the National Assembly had to hurriedly approve, and then the President sent it to this new, the old new national anthem? Because that's what it is right now. So people are wondering,
confused as to whether to call it new or older national anthem.
What's the big deal about that?
Yes, first and foremost, when His Excellency President Ashwaju assumed office, he went back to the Orosaya Committee report, if you will recall, and he looked into that report and said, we are going to implement that report. For us in the Parliament, we appreciate Mr. President for his historical knowledge of some of the issues that were addressed in the past. And in doing that, you will recall that in 2014, the National Political Reform Conference that held in Abuja here did mention or recommended that the then old national anthem, should, be adopted again as a new philosophy to drive the spirit of
was that the only recommendation at that conference?
Yes, no, not the only recommendation.
So I pick up that one alone.
No, you see, as a parliament, we are looking at the issues before us and the issues that will shape the future of our great nation. And if you look at the new national anthem now, as it is today, after the bill was passed, I didn't see any haste by the parliament in doing that. Just yesterday, a few days back, we considered the student loan bill with that level of alacrity. And we all considered it, as something very necessary for the future of our country. And Mr. President, in his partnership and collaboration with the parliament, signed that. So for us in the parliament, we are excited because at the moment we have a president, who is collaborating and partnering with the parliament, a president that is living up to his duties and responsibilities. Because it is one thing for the parliament to pass good bills. It is also another thing for Mr. President to
Was that the reason Senator Bamidele gave for the national anthem?
No, you see, the reason Senator Bamidele gave for the national anthem is the spirit of building a new nation, the spirit of betting, the idea, the philosophy of patriotism. Like I mentioned somewhere yesterday, the lyrics, the lines of the new national anthem as it is today is to reawaken, rekindle the new spirit of nationhood, where we see ourselves as brothers, where we put behind our diversities, where we put behind our differences, and in working together in synergy, and a new national anthem that is particularly targeted at the leaders of our great nation. You will agree with me that leaders of this country sing and recite the national anthem more than the masses because of official engagement. And in doing that, the new national anthem is to remind us of our duties and responsibilities to the citizens of this great nation. I think that is exactly what we have today. A new spirit where, every Nigerian is seen as a leader and every Nigerian understands the responsibility.
Honorable, permit me to interrupt you because you said the political leaders sing the national anthem more than the ordinary Nigerian. And some people will beg to differ. If you go to schools all across the country, for the schools that do assembly every morning, the children are taught the national anthem. It's something that they must sing every morning to just wake up overnight.
Yes.
This took less than 2 weeks. There was no public opinion sought. There was no public commentary invited. It was just a decision of the lawmakers, and that was that.
I think that was a little technical slip of tongue. Pardon me for that. But again, back to the national anthem, how it was passed. The parliament has been elected, by the people of Nigeria to represent them and to take critical decisions on their behalf. And because the Political Reform Conference, which also suggested this in the past, of course, was made up of Nigerians from various segments, people who gathered to represent diverse opinion.
Yeah,
so
but the Attorney General knew that when he said, look, don't let it be only the National Assembly that will do this. Let there be wider consultation.
No, you see, it is not, yes, I agree with wider consultation, but I also want to tell you that through our feedback mechanisms, as representative of the people, we also reach back to our people who also saw what we were doing. And I think based on that feedback, we received, majority positive reviews before.
Shehu, Sani, I'm sure you belong in the constituency, and I'm sure you once represented people. Did you get to give your feedback on this? Even though I don't know why I feel that you might be feeling nostalgic about the return of the old national anthem. Yeah. What are your thoughts, really?
Yeah, you see, the new old national anthem was the anthem that those of us that are over 50 that we sang in our primary school days, and it was such a good experience, and we are nostalgic about it. And I believe most members of National Assemblies are over 50. But the problem we have now is that we should ask ourselves sincerely as a country, with all the problems that we have, economy, security, is national anthem our problem? Is it the issue? That's the question we need to ask ourselves. Now, when you go through the whole process of lawmaking, the National Assembly has not gone through the proper procedure of public hearing and public consultation before this amendment or this return of the old national anthem. So as for me, I see this national anthem as a National Assembly anthem because they have not consulted with Nigerians. Whatever law you're going to make, there should be a public hearing. Even if we have to change our national anthem, is it to go back to the colonial national anthem or is it to move forward? I would have expected the President or the National Assembly to open entries for Nigerians and say, we are changing the national anthem, so there should be submission of entries by all Nigerians on what kind of anthem should we use. Young people in their teens and early 20s can come with brilliant idea, which they will say, this is what it is. You sift through, and then now you select from them, and then you say, this is the one which we feel that will energize and spark the spirit of patriotism more than the one we are having in place. And then from there, now this national anthem will have an identity. It's either Diola from Lagos that have sang it, or Abdul Qadir from Sokoto, or Effort from Akwa Ibom. Then we say, now this is the person who has crafted this anthem, and now he become another symbol. Now, you sit down and then you now thought of what do we need to do? Something needs to be done. And then first reading, second reading, third reading, the law has been passed, the president has signed it. What kind of country are we living in? So to me, I believe that if you look at the priorities of this country, just 3 days ago, 160 people in Niger State were kidnapped and are still in the hands of terrorists. A week ago, 50 farmers were slaughtered. And then 2 weeks ago, 30 farmers were slaughtered in Zamfara and Katsina State. And then we are ending the month with a national anthem for which from the first reading to the signing by Mr. President all happened within a jiffy. So I will now say that if we look at the priorities, my expectation with the president, one that has been in trenches, one that has been a pro-democracy campaigner, because we can attribute, the Honorable has said it, appreciating those who fought and struggled for democracy. I appreciate that June 12th is our Democracy Day because many of us went to jail for it. Many of us fought for that. And we see that as our own symbol. But part of the promise and the pledge of June 12 is to restructure the country. And restructuring has been in the front burner of national discourse and conversation. And the expectation is that the president who has been in the trenches in the struggle for democracy, by this time, there should be a template. This is how the nation can be restructured. We have a document of restructuring that has been there, and even if you are talking of 2014 National Reform Conference, there are tons of recommendations. So why only pick one? So as far as I am concerned, I believe this is a misplaced priority.
Just quickly, though, yesterday we had the opportunity to speak with a member of the National, he's an ex-member of the National Assembly. He also served 2 terms in the Senate, who's a serving minister. He says the public hearing is not compulsory. It's not a compulsory part of lawmaking. Do you agree with him?
No, I don't agree with him, because if you have it as a procedure in terms of law, the National Assembly actually can sit down in a room and come out with a law. But you need that legitimacy. You need to carry people along. You need people to stand for it. Now, if you go through the social media and even traditional media, how many people are enthusiastic and in support of the so-called new national anthem? For people like me, people of my generation, we are happy that at least the nation has come back to our own age. but how does that help? This was before the coming of Obasanjo as a president after the assassination of Murtala Muhammad. This was it. We were so nostalgic. I thought of one day, and I had put it to our compatriots and Nigeria held. We remember what Nigeria used to be, when $1 used to be $1, when things were okay. But that is it. But we are moving forward. We have a new generation of Nigerians who think differently, whom we need to carry along, whom their support is very much needed. If public hearing is not important in terms of lawmaking, then who are you making the law for? Are you making the law for National Assembly? We are making the law for the public. So we now have a National Assembly, National Anthem. This is what we have. And the danger of this is that someday in the future, you may have a new government that controls the National Assembly. And I will say they will revert back to Arase or compatriot. So we'll be going forth and back with the issue of our own national anthem. And as a nation that has been over 6 decades out of British colonial rule, I don't see it as moving forward if we are to go backward and pick that anthem. Yeah, it appeases us because I don't find it difficult in terms of accepting the old national anthem. But when I look at Nigeria today, the challenges and the issues before us, I don't see that as a priority.
Honorable, Ayo has questions for you, but is the Shippers Bill too going to be passed with this alacrity?
Okay, the Shippers Council bill came to us some time ago. It was sponsored by His Excellency the Right Honorable Speaker, and you are aware it has gone through first reading, second reading. Just last week, Monday, we had the public hearing, which had civil society groups, government representatives, non-governmental organizations, and every stakeholder involved. Before I delve into that again, let me just quickly correct the impression Senator is trying to paint that it is the National Assembly's national anthem. As a people's parliament, we have been working very hard to address every single challenge that is confronting this nation. Recently, His Excellency the Right Honorable Speaker did convoke a summit to address the issue of security in the country. So you cannot fault the current parliament for lack of inclusion. No, we operate an open parliament, and as much as possible, we try to engage and involve Nigerians, even beyond public hearings. That is why we've been having summits,
but
seminars.
Clearly right now, there was no public hearing for this, and there are many voices who are questioning why this happened.
Yeah, I think for us, for people who have invested with the right to represent the people, as a parliament, we considered it necessary to do what we have done. And you also will agree with me that this current parliament has 8 political parties representing every segment of this country. So with the diverse views and thoughts, we are working in sanity for the good of the country.
I think he'll follow through. Go ahead, Ayo.
Well, Chamberlain, thank you very much. One of the issues that comes to me right away about this is that, first of all, before we take that, I understand, Chamberlain, that we need to take some messages. So please, stay with us. We'll be right back. Thank you for staying with us. Honorable, let me come straight to you. You know, one of the propositions of this Shippers Council, the Shippers Council bill that we understand is being considered, is the creation of a regulatory organization, a Shippers regulatory organization or something like that. Tell us about that, because especially at a time when we are thinking of reducing the number of ministries, departments, and agencies, and thereby cutting costs. It will seem like some would say we are taking 1 step forward, 2 backwards.
No, thank you very much, Ayo. The Shippers Council bill, if you go through the letters of that document before the parliament and going by the presentations made by about 99% of people who came, we are not going backward. The Shippers Council bill is to give life to an already existing agency, the National Shippers Council, the Nigeria Shippers Council rather, you know, to be able to carry out not regulatory function, to carry out regulatory functions. And for instance, in the oil and gas sector, we have the Nigerian Upstream Regulatory Commission. We have the downstream in the telecommunications sector. We equally have, a regulator. So what we're trying to do, especially at a time that our nation's economy is gradually moving from an oil-based economy to the blue marine economy, is to also have a regulator, so that certain checks and balances can be done under the laws of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. So basically, that bill is to give teeth, to an already existing agency with just some sort of modifications. We are not seeking, the Parliament is not seeking, to create an entirely new agency. There's one already that is there, which is the Shippers Council. It's just to give them, the life to be able to do what is expected of them. And there are many Nigerians who participated in that public hearing. Thank God we will not be crucified for not having public hearing on that particular bill. But so far we have seen it as a people's bill, something that is going to help in reshaping, the economic life of our country. And as a parliament, we are committed to our core principle, which is encapsulated in our blueprint, in our agenda, the issue of transparency, accountability in the conduct of government activities. And so far, there have not been any opposition to the
I would say that question has been,
passing of that bill.
Yeah, I would say that question has been answered, but the question still remains whether or not it's not going to be an additional weight, so to speak, on the nation's finances. I guess we'll get back to that and get to that some other time because we're running out of time. But let me quickly take this with you, Senator.
All right, thank you.
One of the issues that I think you also mentioned here this morning, Senator Sani, is that of communication. I don't know whether we can really say whether you can really say that there's been efficient communication. Yesterday, we talked about this communication thing quite significantly. You also cited that in your response to the questions that my colleagues posted to you earlier about how the presidency has communicated a thing or two. So in terms of communicating policies, especially the ones that are going to really bite hard, what should be improved so that people have an idea this is coming, just wait for it, brace up for it, something like that?
Well, first of all, I must express my appreciation and commendation to the new Information Minister, Mohammed Idris, because he has not been behaving like a propagandist, and he has been always explaining public policies and government programs as friendly as it should be. And this is one of the most responsible and friendly information minister we have had in the history of this country. But I think what also needs to be improved is how people can key into the reforms and how they can actually be informed and carried along as far as the economic reforms of this government is concerned. People are suffering. Things have not been easy for the common man. And for someone in government will see that it is the price that we have to pay for what has not been done, when that is right. But there is actually the need for a continuous reach out to the public in terms of telling them when this sacrifice will come to an end and when the dividends of this sacrifice will start being harvested by people.
All right, Senator Shehu Sani was a senator who represented the Kaduna Central Senatorial District in the 8th National Assembly from 2015 to 2019. We've also had Honorable Philip Agbese, Deputy Chairman, House Committee on Media and Publicity. Thank you, gentlemen, for coming on this morning.
Thank you, Chamberlain.
All right, we'll be back in just a moment. Don't forget, I would like to hear from you, too, about the national anthem. We'll pass it on to Honorable Philip Agbese and the members, so don't go away.